there's also a lot of laws and writings about love in the Talmud and in other commentaries. Hold on, I'm just getting rid of all this stuff. And I think it's interesting. Maybe we'll look at that, and we'll also think about if it relates to Song of Songs, or if we see any connection or inspired by Song of Songs. Or we may be surprised to see that the rabbis in some cases were practical, in some cases were very romantic. And I sometimes think it's depends on the relationships they had in their lives with their wives, how they feel about love. Some may not feel so romantic and some may. So I'm going to share. First, I have to do share screen. And then I'm going to look at, where's the Jewish view of love? I just had it. Oh, here it is. Sorry. Okay, share. So the Jewish view of love, let's read about this and we'll talk about the love that is in the Tanakh, which is the whole Hebrew Bible. So, Abby, why don't you start?
Okay. Wait, hold on. I'm in my car. Drive me
All
back.
right, I'll come back to you.
I found it. I got it. The linguistic root of ahava, the Hebrew word for love, literally means to offer, to give, or to give. The act of giving bridges the gap between souls and initiates the process of soul merger. That is the very definition of love. As we develop generosity free of self-interest, love will flow as surely as the rays of the sun carry warmth to our bones.
How beautiful. So, ahava means love, and it literally means to offer or to give. So what the Jewish view says is that to love, you must be willing to give, and not out of, be generous and not for self-interest, but to have the interest of your beloved as your primary objective. Okay, one more. Abby?
Okay, Midrash. Our soulmates are chosen for us 40 days before we are even conceived. Before we are born, our souls are complete. But just before we enter this world, God divides these souls in half, sending each half down into a different body. The quest for love is the act of one's soul looking for its mate, yearning to be whole again. Our bashert, our intended one, our other half, is the one who sees our gifts.
So I'm going to stop the share for a minute. So there's this idea, what I love about this Midrash? It doesn't really say male and female. It kind of, there's room in this for LGBTQ people as well, because it says your soul's divided in half and you look for your other soulmate. It doesn't just have to be the opposite sex, it's your soulmate. And that it's your bashert. And how do you know it's your bashert? Because they see you. They actually see you. So, for those of you who are married, did you feel your spouse was your bashert quickly, slowly? Did you know? When did you know? How did it go? Does anybody want to share that? Merle.
No, it was almost 53 years ago.
So you don't remember?
I mean, I remember, but I don't remember how immediate it was. I mean, it was something that took place over a period of time.
It grew.
Yeah.
That's interesting, because also you think of when your souls merge with more time, if it's your true bashert, the merge can go deeper and deeper, and you can become more and more united through experiences, through children.
And also he graduated from college and I still had another 6 months or a year to go. He moved to Los Angeles and then it grew fast when I came home from college.
I understand. You don't have to. Does anybody else? Abby?
Well, I met my husband in my father's hospital room when he was going to have coronary bypass surgery. And he was the intern on the case. And he said, Dr. Barron, are you married? He says, I have a nice daughter. I was just right there. So he asked me out. So it's sort of pretty much right away. And actually, Rodney held my father's heart during the surgery and he did, he was part of the surgery there.
That's
So
interesting.
Yeah. So
It's a big
talking about
mitzvah.
hearts,
It's a big
yeah,
mitzvah to make a match. It's a huge mitzvah to make a match. Does
yeah,
anybody
we
else
met
want
and
to?
married in 9 months, so that's it.
Wow. Susan.
So I met my husband 60 years ago at Wilshire Boulevard Temple at the Onyx Shabbat.
Wow.
Oh, no.
And I had given Steve Brewer, who was camp director, had asked several members, I was in last year UCLA, if they would speak at the Onyx Shabbat then on Friday night. That's when they had it at the temple. And I had taught dance, and he said, would you speak about how you convey Jewish values through dance? And I really didn't want to do it, but I did. And there was an art director and a music director and theaters. They all did it. And Bill was home from his army training. He came with his parents. Mother made him come because I was his sister's counselor, and his sister liked me. So he said, you come, and went to them, and he slept through my speech. But I met him at the Onyx Shabbat, and I thought he was the most handsome guy around. So it wasn't a beshert, but it was an attraction. And then I offered to show him around UCLA, which is not a major thing, but I gave him my phone number so he would. And then, and it was on Valentine's Day, and then we went
Which is
out,
today.
which is today, 60 years ago. So maybe that was in the planning for the Heavenly Father. But I had to go out with him on a day, not had to, I wanted to go out with him on the second date. He proposed, and we were married in May.
Well, that's pretty beshared if he's the second date
Yeah.
proposed. That's pretty amazing.
It's been 60 years now.
It's amazing. Does anybody else, anybody want to share anything? Okay. Oh, yes, Rebecca.
Well, I haven't met my perfect person, but I just want to mention a movie that I really like called The Butcher's Wife with Demi Moore. She's a clairvoyant from North Carolina. Jeff Daniels is the role, and she feels that she has met her perfect person. But the story goes on to tell that there's some Southern folk tale about a story about finding your pull apart, and that she's trying to find her pull apart. So it's the same premise as the Midrash.
Yes, I think, it's a beautiful story about love that you may find yours. I have a story, but I'm not going to tell you about. I did find mine, but we didn't marry because we were really, really young, and he had become Orthodox, and I needed time, and his Rebbe made him marry somebody else, basically. And he was the one. And there's many stories about it, but anyway, that's okay. Okay, so let's go continue reading about the Jewish view of love. And now these are the stories in the Tanakh that sort of reflect, love. There's not that many instances of love in the Torah, but let's read which ones they are. So, Merle, why don't you read Adam and Eve?
Okay. Adam and Eve. When God created Eve and presented her to Adam, Adam exclaimed, "This time, bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh, this one shall be called woman, for she was taken from man." Spontaneously saying, "This time," he expressed his delight and emotional arousal, his love at first sight for his newfound mate.
And also, there's this idea, in this story, there's two stories. One, they're created equally, and one where he's taken from her right by his rib, which is near his heart. So they say she was taken near his heart because, she's close to his heart. And so they're both myths, but even in this myth, they make Eve, somebody who's close to man's heart, and that he will love her. And and also later they say you should leave your parents and cleave to your wife. Is later it's written that you and your spouse are the main couple, the main family unit that starts from there, and that your parents no longer have priority or primacy, but it's your spouse, your partner. Okay, Rebecca and Isaac.
Okay, before Rebecca even saw Isaac, she had agreed with devotion and self-sacrifice to be betrothed to him. On her way to meet him, she saw a man approaching in the field and knew intuitively that it must be him. She experienced such intense emotions of love at her first sight of him that she nearly fell off her camel. By virtue of having so completely bound herself beforehand, her soul was able to recognize or know him as her true soulmate even before they had formally met.
Well, in the Torah, it says literally she fell off her camel. She says, "Who's that man?" They say that's Isaac, and she covers herself with her veil because she's going to be his bride, and she says "batipol," and she fell off her camel. And sometimes, different translations say she alighted or she came down, but no, it's she fell. She fell for him. She went, "Oh my God, that's him," and there was love. Okay, Susan Ehrlich, Jacob and Rachel.
Well, I do like Elijah because it's more, I don't know, classic or genteel.
I like it is that she voluntarily, just came down. But they don't say vatered that she came down. They say vatipol from nafal, which means to fall.
Yeah,
So
okay, all right, I got it. It's
fell off her camel, which I
right.
love because
That's
she
more
fell for him.
less
Anyway,
genteel. Okay, in Kabbalah, the couple that more than any other personifies the ideal state of manifest love between husband and wife is Jacob and Rachel, whose relationship is also the Torah's prototypical example of romantic love. Like Isaac, Jacob knew that he was going to marry his relative's daughter. When he arrived at the well near Haran, the shepherds told him that the approaching maiden was Rachel, his uncle Laban's daughter. His love at first sight enabled him to single-handedly roll back the boulder covering the well at which the shepherds watered their flocks in order to let Rachel's flocks drink. And he cried because he was so overwhelmed by his feelings.
he also kissed her. They don't put that in
Yes,
there.
that's
He
right.
kissed her and he cried, and it was like, oh my God. And this is the one real, he loved her. For better, for worse, he loved her more than his other wives. He loved his children with her more than his other children, which caused the whole Joseph, debacle with them because Joseph was Rachel and Jacob's son, and he always favored him. Though I have reflected that maybe Joseph, this is interesting. I've come up with a theory. I want to share this with you. Maybe Jacob preferred Joseph because he was the most like him. Because remember, Jacob had dreams. Jacob had the dream of the ladder, and he had the wrestling with the angel. So he had this spiritual quality. And Joseph had dreams. And so maybe he just felt closer to Joseph because they were more similar, that he recognized a kinship, a special quality in Joseph that he didn't find in his other sons, who seemed to be pretty much meat and potatoes guys, if you know what I mean, more like Esau, actually. So I wonder if, he did prefer him because it was Rachel's son.
Yeah.
But also maybe because he just had that sensitivity or something that he also shared. So I thought that was a possibility. I love, you never know. You can read all kinds of stuff into these things. Okay. Okay, now we have David and Abigail. We read about these two, David and his loves.
He
So
likes married women.
that's right. All right, Cindy, why don't you read about it?
Yeah, that's right.
King David was not psychologically prepared for either of his confrontations with love at first sight. When he met Abigail, he was on the way to avenge her husband Nabal's extreme ingratitude and stinginess. Seeing her, he fell in love and wanted to marry her. But Abigail, the woman of goodly intelligence, convinced him that they should not marry until the time was right. Well, shouldn't they not marry because she was married?
Right.
Yeah, but David was a rogue. We know that.
Yeah.
I don't know if he wanted to marry her, but he wanted her. And we actually, if we go back and look at the text, there's this implication that he was prepared to rape her or sleep with her no matter what. And she says to him, you're going to be a great king someday, and you're not going to want to regret anything that you do now and look back in shame because you're going to be so great. And he says, oh, thank you. Thank you for telling me, reminding me. So she knows how to, I mean, I think there's this implication that he might have slept with her, but she talked him out of it. And then after her husband died, he married her. And then it was all, and we don't really hear about her, but I always feel like she must have been an advisor or a very wise woman. And maybe she was older than he, or a little bit, or the same age, not a young girl, but she was a married woman. She ran the household. She was able, if you remember, to muster up all that food and meet him on the road when he was coming toward her with all this food. So she was a mistress of a household, an established in her own right. He recognized her. Okay, Pamela, do you want to read David and Bathsheba? David and Bathsheba.
In the case of Bathsheba, however, David's mind was not only unable to control his emotions, but became subordinate to them. Although she was predestined to be his wife, he acted on impulse and was unable to wait to take her until the time was right. Talmud, blah, blah. Once she became pregnant, he arranged that her husband be killed in battle in order that he be able to marry her. This is the danger of uncontrollable desire and the most destructive aspect of love.
Right. And their child died because of this terrible sin, though the rabbis are I love them. They always try to find excuses for people that they admire. And they say that, in fact, Bathsheba was
for the men.
For the men.
They are defending.
Absolutely. So they say, well, she was actually divorced at that time, because they claim that when men went into battle, they divorced their wives so that in case they were, lost or their bodies were lost, the women wouldn't be, called an aguna, which means you're not divorced and you're not widowed, because we don't really know what happened to the husband. And so you can never marry again. So they claim that. But I like that they say this is, the danger of uncontrollable desire. And then there's this beautiful
Can I ask, did David kill Naval or have him killed?
No, he dropped dead. He had a heart attack.
I thought he was. I thought there was some rules for battle that you're not allowed to sleep with your wife before the battle, and I thought that her husband was killed when he went through that tree or something, wasn't he?
We're talking about who now? Whose husband?
Bathsheba's.
No.
Am I wrong? I'm on the wrong person?
Yeah, okay. David was so treacherous. He actually sent, his name was, what was his name? I can't think of his name.
Uriah.
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 Uriah
the Hun.
He sent him, he sent him with a message. He said, take this message to my man in command. And in the message it said, put this Uriah in the front lines in the next battle. And so he was killed. I mean, he was bringing his own death note to what's his right hand man's name? I'm sorry.
That's with the J, but he also later had the J guy killed.
That's right. His name was
Jehoshaphat.
No.
It's like Joaquin, but it's not.
That's right.
It's like
Yoash? Was it Yoash?
I don't think so.
No, I know
close though.
It's like Joaquin or something.
I can't. I don't remember.
I know.
Look up. Anybody? I mean, Abby.
Well, I can't because I'm in the car.
Somebody look up King David's. Top general.
It was a king.
He was a top general, his closest friend.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah. But I thought, didn't he die? When he died, wasn't there a tree there and it sort of hung him?
No, that's no. That's Absalom, David's son.
Got it. Okay.
He was Joab.
Joab. I knew it was Joa something.
Joab was the one who was doing all his dirty work, and then he ended up dying because he turned against him near the very end. Okay, so now I want to show you something. If you saw this word in Hebrew, The word for man, the Kabbalah says, the word for man is ish. It's aleph yud shin. And the word for woman is isha, which is aleph yud esh ah. And if you take out the ya, the y and the a, what you have left is ash, which is fire. So if without God in a relationship, it turns to fire and people burn each other up with passion, with anger, with jealousy, with all kinds of things. That's what they say. So that's just a little Kabbalistic teaching. Okay, here are some
That's kind of
quotes.
really cool.
It is cool, right?
Yeah.
Here are some quotes from the Torah and the Ketuvim about love. So, Diane, why don't you read these quotes? Is it too small? I can make it bigger.
No, it's good for me.
It's good for you. Wait, hold on. I'll just. Okay.
It is not good for man to be alone.
And man, the word man is Adam, which literally means a human. Adam is the being, the human being, really. Okay, continue.
Therefore, a man shall leave his father and his mother and cling to his wife, and they shall become one flesh.
So this is this idea of union and one soul and whatever. Keep going. This is really interesting. Go on.
When a man has taken a bride, he shall not go out with the army or be assigned to it for any purpose. He shall be exempt for 1 year to be free to stay at home, and bring happiness to the woman he has married.
Isn't that amazing that that's in the Torah?
Yeah, right.
That you're not taking out that a man, his first year of marriage is more important than defending your country or fighting the enemy. Of course, also they hope you're going to have children, but that's not what they say. They say to
But
bring.
does Israel follow that now?
I'm not sure. Well, usually, honestly, when you go in the army, you're 18, so you're not married yet.
The
But
Orthodox might be.
I think you can get an exemption. I don't know if I'm sure you get time off for your wedding, but I don't know if they let you say you can't go for a year.
I don't think so.
I don't think so, but it's a beautiful idea. It's a beautiful idea. I love it. Okay.
You know, currently with this,
It's a good way to get out of it. It's a good way
I've
to
seen images of,
Wait, one person at a time.
Everybody needs to mute.
Okay. Susan, go.
currently
Susan.
in this war, I've seen photographs of IDF couples getting married.
And they're on their like leave. I agree. I've seen those too.
It could be on their leave, but they're surrounded by IDF people, and there's look at this marriage.
Oh, so they're still in the army. They're just taking off a.
I said currently now with this
Yeah,
war.
I know. I've seen them too. I know exactly what you're talking about. Okay, Abby, did you want to say something?
No, I'm just, my service goes in and out because we're driving from Northern California.
Oh, okay. So let's continue with these beautiful teachings. Okay, Merle, are you there? Just see, maybe she stepped away. Okay, Bonnie, you can't read, you're saying, but you're listening. Okay, Pamela.
Enjoy life with the wife you love.
So that is Ecclesiastes. This is in the book of writings, the Ketuvim. And now we go to the Talmud. Keep going.
Okay, I have a question for that. We can answer it later, but my question before I forget is, does that mean as opposed to the otherwise, which you love less, or is it just like, because we didn't have monogamy then? Yeah, that's the word. Okay.
I think, I don't think that's what it means. I think that you should pick a wife that you love. In other words, you should enjoy life with the wife or a wife, that you love. In other words, don't marry someone you don't love. I know there were multiple wives. Maybe, I think it could be multiple meanings, as things change. Maybe in the Ecclesiastes time, you had 10 wives. So you could be right. I don't know. It could be both ways.
It was just a question. Okay, a person should always be careful about the honor of his wife. For blessing is found in a person's home only due to his wife. Woo-hoo.
So, wow, what do you think that means?
Well, I think it's an excuse to stone people to death if the woman does something wrong, for one thing.
Oh,
because
really?
you're bringing dishonor. That's my cynical view. Um,
No, I don't think. Oh, wow. First of all, they didn't stone. I mean, they never did it ever. I don't think they ever stoned any woman, honestly. I
okay,
mean,
well, that's
you know,
good. But I do think that it places, I think it's wonderful in a sense that it gives honor to the woman. But if you marry a woman who doesn't quote unquote bring honor and isn't respectful, then there's a lot of blame and burden on the wife
right.
to make the home right. Like it's a lot of responsibility, I think.
No, I think, I don't think that's what it means. Does anybody think it means something else than that?
Well, there's probably a nicer interpretation. I think I might be in a cynical mood today.
I think it means you should always be careful to honor his wife, not to disgrace her. I think he has to be careful that he doesn't diminish or tarnish the honor of his wife. Because your blessing is in your home comes from your wife. I mean, in other words,
That
don't
makes sense. Yeah.
don't put her down, don't insult her, don't, there are relationships where in a family where the father, belittles the mother in front of the children and all that kind of thing. And there's no they're saying the woman brings blessing and happiness to the family. So you need to be careful to honor her and keep her honor intact, because when she feels honored is when she's going to bestow all these blessings and go out of her way. I mean, we know that if we feel appreciated and loved, nothing is that hard for us, or we're willing to go do whatever it takes to make our family happy, or cook that food, or do whatever they love, when we feel appreciated. So that's how I saw it.
Well, I think it's much nicer. And
I
I
don't
also
see
think
stoning in there.
but I actually, I do agree with you. And I think that I disagree with myself. I agree with you. But I think that probably is the foundation for community property laws in Spanish language states, right? So in Texas and California, and in all of the Spanish speaking world, because that's really the foundation of community property, which is to say that the stay-at-home person, traditionally the woman, their value to the home and to the family is equal to the value of the man who goes out and earns the money in the outside world. And to me, that's a way of honoring that. And to me, that I see that as the foundation of community property law, because so many of our current laws are based on, biblical things, whether we know it or not,
Well, this is Talmudic, so I'm not sure but it's interesting, the idea of respecting what the woman does as equal to the man. Absolutely. Okay, so let's continue. And then now keep going, Pam. Now we're seeing stuff we know because we've studied it.
Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for your love is better than wine.
That's from Song of Songs.
Sounds like a song.
Yeah,
Love is better, is sweeter than wine.
Well, that's taken from this
I know
verse.
it. Yeah.
Okay.
When a man buys his wife fine clothes and jewelry, he should have, excuse me, he should have in mind that he is beautifying the divine presence represented in this world by none other than his wife.
Wow, how do you like that?
That's fantastic. Who says that?
Rabbi Yishayahu Horowitz, he's like a scholar, an Orthodox scholar. When he says the divine presence, he means the Shekhinah.
Yeah, but I'm saying there's so many complaints that everything, all these Jewish things are written by men and they don't respect women. I think they do. I think this is a
lot. I mean, there's so many. We're looking at all of these quotes of all in our Talmud, in our Torah, in our Tanakh, about love in your wife. And this is like a more contemporary rabbi.
Yeah, that I know, but I'm just saying all the bad PR that they've been getting is really...
I agree. Well, I don't know. Some of them
I think there's respect and then there's respect. Meaning, just to be lawyerly about it, I think that there's a high degree of respect for traditional feminine roles and traditional female things. It's when women, quote, try to be like a man, that many men are I don't know that they're even necessarily offended, but I think that they become competitive, because if you're going to do things that men do and compete and be in the man's world, then you are a competitor with them. It's just that women don't understand that men compete with each other like that all the time.
Okay,
You're talking
yes,
21st century, and 20th century became
yes,
feminine.
and there's no mention of that. And if yours, these quotes are still apply. Doesn't matter what, if your wife is the president of the United States, you still have to respect her honor, and you still have to love her. And, there's not that many laws about what a woman has to do for a husband.
Right.
So why do you think that is?
I don't know.
Why do you think that there are a lot of laws about how to treat your wife, but not a lot of laws about how to treat your husband?
I think
Is
it's
it
power.
because, well,
Who wants to talk? Merle,
Yeah, Merle, you
Well-
go ahead, but yeah.
Merle.
well, Pamela said power, but I'm thinking when I was working, it was expected, and not so much by my husband, but by my mother-in-law, that I give our daughter all the attention that she required. And I made my work hours so that I could do all the things I would have to do as a mother, as a parent. But there were women in that age, I mean, this was 30 some odd years ago, there were women in the family who really had a problem with those of us mothers and wives that were working.
Okay, that's one thing, but okay,
But there were never any laws that I knew
no,
of.
but I'm talking about in Jewish teachings. There are many, many, we're going to read more of them, instruction of how you should treat your wife, but not very many on how to treat your husband. And you know what my go-to saying is, they don't tell you things that you're doing. They only tell you about things you're not doing, that you should be doing or shouldn't be doing. In other words, if they say, don't sing Song of Songs in the taverns, it's because people are singing songs in the taverns. If they're not telling women what to do, it's because there wasn't a problem. Women knew what to do. Women were taking care of their husbands. Women were honoring their husbands. Women were there. They didn't need any, and even as you said, from your mother-in-law, from mother to daughter or whatever, there was a teaching of how to care for your family or your husband. But obviously men needed instruction. Men were self-centered. Men were working. Men were studying. Men were doing whatever they were doing, and they would neglect their wives. Our patriarchs were horrible husbands, all of them. Abraham was not good. Isaac, kind of blind to his children, or they weren't good family men. Jacob, was mean to his other wife, to Leah. He was good to Rachel, and Moses neglected Zipporah, sent her away. He didn't even, his father-in-law had to bring her back after they crossed the Red Sea because he had sent her away. I don't have time for you. So
But didn't
Joseph
like
was
Rachel or something? She
wait
was
one
the one with
second. Abby, what?
who is Esau's parents? Remember, because it
His
was
parents were Rebecca and Isaac, and he married. He actually tried to please them. He
and
married
also
some pagan women, and then he married Ishmael's daughter to try to say, okay, I'll be a good son
but
too.
then the mother was behind it because she wanted him to have the one son, not the other son. Remember?
Of course she wanted, because she felt that the son who was the older son was incapable and not the right leader for the people. She felt he was, completely inappropriate, it's not he couldn't fulfill his role. And she also, if we, you can take it many ways, had a divine, message from God that this is the way it was supposed to be. So she felt that she was doing the right thing. But what were you going to say, Susan?
I was going to say, there was one exception, which is Joseph. Interestingly, he's not considered a patriarch. He's not.
No, and he also
he married out of the faith. Yes, but
he also grew up in Egypt, where maybe the women had a lot more power. Certainly the royal women did.
Yeah,
Pharaoh, Pharaoh,
it was,
Pharaoh.
so that was the one thing from age 17 on, he was in Egypt. But they, the whole blessing of Manasseh and Ephraim is that one of the things, these two brothers got along.
Right, they were the first brothers not to
And
fight.
they were raised by Joseph.
Joseph, right, or his wife, we don't know.
And his wife.
And his wife. Okay,
Yes.
so, okay, Susan, why don't you read? We're here at
Wait,
I
can
am
I
I
just
believe.
add
Oh yeah,
a
Pam.
little thing? But one of the thoughts I had is that a lot of these rules were written down. This is from what Merle was saying, really, but one of the men wrote the rules down. So they're writing rules almost for each other, and they were the more educated, right, for reading and writing. And maybe women's rule, maybe they had as many rules, but they just were passed down orally, like in Merle's case, right? That was really an oral instruction. And maybe it just was that they weren't written down, so they're not passed down to us from history.
And I have a question as well, which brings us more to current life. We
Yeah.
have family where it was an arranged marriage. They live in Israel. He spends all of his time studying, and she works 2 jobs, and they have 6 kids. And I mean, she's working these 2 jobs to pay the rent and put food on the table. And there's no resentment there, but where are the rules there? I mean, is it supposed to be the wife is supposed to do everything and the husband does nothing, earns no, I
No.
mean, I guess there's a stipend that they get, but for studying constantly, but I don't know how much that stipend might give you. So, I mean, that's a current rule. I mean, they were married like 12 years ago.
Okay, before I answer, Rebecca.
Oh, I was just going to say, I don't think there needed to be written rules because we already got the story. Eve disobeyed God and ate the fruit, and look what happened. Abigail, another example I could think of is Abigail chastised David for dancing in the street, and look what happened to her.
No, that was Michal.
Michal.
Yeah, but
So
that was him being a jerk.
It was assumed we were going to be subservient and that there was no need to write the rules.
Well, that could be that. That's true. And women were more subservient or had their role. But when we talk about like Merle's example, that is extreme. And that is very extreme. And a lot of people would not, I mean, Maimonides worked. Rashi worked. These men have decided that studying Torah, fulfills everything and that the woman has to take care of it is very patriarchal, very fundamentalist. And I don't think we can take that as the core teachings of Judaism. Certainly, let's just read this next one, which is completely against what your family is doing, which is a man should eat and drink less than his means, clothe himself according to his means, and honor his wife and children beyond his means.
Yay.
In other words, you need to take care of your family at your own, even if it's at the detriment and your own sacrifice. So, and this is the Talmud. So this guy is, you can twist anything to mean anything,
Exactly.
But if we look at it directly, that's not the way it was meant to be, that a woman is working and doing everything for her husband. And you do see it in a few very closed societies. Okay.
So I like that a lot, and I like that you're presenting it, and there's still, I mean, I think we've got such a 21st century mindset that all is bad. I think that here in the Talmud, there are beautiful things of what people should do. Now, if they do it, if they don't do it, that's on them. And Merle's objection, I certainly agree with, but that's not everybody. That's an extreme.
No.
And that was the deal that Ben Gurion struck with the ultra-Orthodox.
Right.
And
he didn't imagine, though, there would be so many of them.
Exactly. That was the deal. And in the reading, I'm doing some Talmud or Mishnah with the early rabbis. They all worked.
They all worked. That's right. They all worked.
They all had day jobs, and
That's
I don't know how they managed to even, write some, all that they did, but they had day jobs. And in the Torah itself, that there are 6 days you're supposed to work. And
That's right.
you
What
know,
kind of Shabbos is it? Yeah,
So
exactly. Lori, can you read? Because I know you're on your phone. I know you're here and not answering. Okay. Susan, why don't you read? Jacob loved Rachel.
So Jacob loved Rachel. So he said, I will work for you 7 years. So Jacob worked 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed him a few days because of his love for her. And there he is working.
Yeah, there you are. And also, this is like the big love story in the Torah. Is he worked and it just went so fast because he loved her and blah, blah, blah. Okay, read a few more.
Love your neighbor as yourself. This is a fundamental principle in the Torah. That's a key.
So, this is all different kinds of love. And there's like loving meaning giving or supporting or being kind to your fellow human being. It's a fundamental principle of the Torah. Okay, continue.
The real opposite of love is not hate, but indifference by Rabbi Steinsaltz.
Also, Elie Wiesel said the same thing when he was talking about that. So I didn't realize it was from Steinsaltz. Okay, one more.
Yeah, I've heard it from a number of sources, I think.
Yeah.
Any love that depends on a specific cause, when that cause is gone, the love is gone. But if it doesn't depend on a specific cause, it will never cease.
Okay, so what does that mean?
Maybe when you're united for something like some goal, like to I don't know, to save a life or to pen an encyclopedia or Google. And when that goes, that united cause, then maybe the love for your partner wanes too. And, sometimes it's an interesting, when you're young, you might have an interest in, let's say mountain climbing, and you love the guy that's mountain climbing with you. And then when you get middle age or older age, you say enough of the mountain climbing, and then the love starts to dissipate.
Okay, so I also don't think cause is necessarily like a cause. I think it'd be like beauty. Like I loved her when she was young and beautiful, or I loved him when he was handsome and, virile, and now we're old, and because that was what it was based on. But what if they mean like if it's just the person themselves or your experiences, or you're constantly renewing whatever you're sharing in your life, it's not one thing, it's the whole combination of things, then there's always going to be the love is going to remain. I mean, here, Susan's been married 60 years. Merle's been married how long? 50?
53.
53 years. Cindy, how long have you been married?
45.
45. I mean, and Abby, how long? Are you still there? I mean, she's got her picture up. There's got to be, it couldn't just be looks or physical attraction. It had to be so much more for you to stay, with your spouse for all these years. So what would you, and Diane, are you married? I don't know.
Yes, I'm married.
How long have you been married?
First marriage, I was 16 when I met him and 19 when we were married. So it's a whole different world when you're a kid. And
Yeah.
It's very different. Second marriage, I'm still married to him. Was there love? Who knows? Who knows the reasons? Are we together? Yes, but lots of buts. Lots of buts.
That's interesting. So, okay, we don't need to go into this, but because we only have 10 minutes. But if it's only one thing and that one thing dissipates or, disappears with time, the love is going, the Mishnah is saying, but when it's not just one thing, but it's many things, or it's the person, their essence, or who they are, the love is going to last. So, okay, let's continue. Where's the share? Where's the share screen? Okay. Jewish view of love. And let's see. Oh, okay. Cindy, why don't you read? Look at all this stuff about love in all of our sacred texts.
One who has found a wife has found goodness and has brought forth favor from God.
That's beautiful. You found a wife, you find goodness and favor from God. It's interesting, found a wife. It's not like they arranged the marriage or whatever, but you found her, you chose her. It's also from the man's point of view, because I guess women don't get to, in the ancient world, choose so easily. Okay, I'm just going to make these bigger because and this is the Zohar, which is the fundamental text of the Kabbalah. Go ahead, Cindy.
A husband and wife are one soul, separated only through their descent to this world. When they are married, they are reunited again.
Okay, so that's similar to the Midrash we talked about. And,
Yeah.
if you study this and you're, engaged and you're reading these things and you're going to approach your marriage in a very specific way. If like the husband's reading this, the wife's reading this, even if they're not studying it together, and they're going to look at their spouses in a holy way, in like a more multi-dimensional way, a mystical way, as well as a physical way and a material way. I mean, we were just doing this brain boot camp, and one of the things was about mindfulness. She was talking about just how you think of something. It affects not just your brain, but your health, everything. The way that you think of something can affect your body and your mind and your brain health. And similarly, this is sort of, if you think of these marriage or these relationships this way, you're going to treat each other in a special way, very loving way or respectful. Okay, keep going.
Know that this union is a holy and pure thing when it is properly conducted in the proper time and with the proper intention. God has created everything according to his wisdom and has not created things to be ugly or shameful. He created man and woman and created each and every organ and their functions, and there is nothing degrading in this.
So what is he talking about?
Sex.
Sex. Now, in Catholic religion, and for sure, the highest level of spirituality was to be celibate, to be married to God, to not have a physical or a bodily or human spouse, but to be a priest or a nun or a bishop or a monk, and to abstain as much as you can from physical things and physical needs and desires and functions. And Nachmanides, who was another great scholar, he's not Maimonides, he's not in the second one, he's called the Ramban, and he lived, I think, in the 13th century. He's saying there's no shame. Everything was Hinduism and Pamela, Hinduism and Buddhism. Also, what are you saying? You're muted.
Celibate.
They also believe in celibacy.
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, because they have the nuns and they have, the Dalai Lama, they're all celibate. They take vows of celibacy, and they're the most scholarly people of their group, right?
Right.
So,
and so in Judaism,
in Hinduism, actually, I'm wrong about that, because Krishna had like a bazillion wives and was horny as hell. So,
and they have the Kama Sutra,
yeah. Sorry, Hinduism, they were very
sexual. But in Judaism, he says, but properly. There's not orgies, there's not, three ways, there's not all this stuff. It's in the proper way, in the proper time, in the proper conditions. Which means within marriage, it's beautiful, and there's nothing shameful about having sex, about loving your spouse. And so this whole thing of like this myth that Hasidim are supposed to have sex through a sheet and all that stuff that you may have heard, that's not true at all. You know what I mean? That they only have sex through a hole in a sheet and stuff like that. No. That it's all normal. And actually, early Christianity and early anti-Semitism, when their anti-Semitism started for two reasons. One, there was actually a competition between Christianity and Judaism to convert the pagans. And that was one of the reasons that they simplified and got rid of circumcision and kosher to make it easier to convert to Christianity. But also, because Jews did not accept Jesus as their savior and the Messiah, there was this, resentment and competition. And one of the things they said is that Jews are sex maniacs, that they're sexual deviants, because they liked to have, they had sex with their wives. They believed in sexuality. And so they said, oh, they're sexual deviants, because if you're really holy and really pure, you abstain from that.
Mm.
And I'm thinking now, in the, this is Roman Catholicism. We have to always remember that it came from out of the Roman culture, the Roman pagan culture. And they had Vestal virgins, they had some holy virgins in their temples, you know what I mean? And things like that. And so this idea of virginity, oh, and also some of the gods and the goddesses were virgins, and so there was this idea that to be truly holy, you should be pure or be a virgin. Came from Rome as well. But in Judaism, it was never like that. Even our patriarchs and matriarchs, they all were in love, they had children, they had sex, whatever. Yes, Cindy.
Well, I know in some religions, especially Mormon, you're only supposed to have sex for procreation.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, I know Mormon for sure, and I think there are others.
Well,
Not
Catholics.
in Judaism, you're
No,
supposed to
well, that's why they have so many kids. They can have sex all they want then.
who, Jews?
No, Orthodox.
They can't have it all they want. They can't have it 2 weeks out of every
No,
month.
but they
Right.
keep, yeah, but you're supposed to have a lot of children, so you could,
Well,
a
you're
lot
supposed
of
to have
Reformed
children.
Jews are done after 2.
Some Orthodox Jews use birth control. You can use birth control. There's no law against
I
it.
didn't think they could.
No,
Yeah.
not the
You
ones I dealt
can.
with.
There's no law. It's just like a tradition. Well, I'm taking as many as God can give me, but you don't have to.
But you have to
And
have the rabbi's permission.
I don't,
Not have, well,
you
I
know,
know people who've had to
had to what?
have the rabbi's permission not to have more children because they had a physical problem.
Well,
I don't think
there's
so.
so many levels of Judaism and Orthodoxy, and that's, the plus and the minus of, there's no rule. My niece, I think I shared this, her rabbi, she lived in New York, her rabbi was in Michigan where she met him because she went to University of Michigan. He didn't recognize the Eruv, that boundary around the city in New York. The rabbis in New York recognized it, obviously, but he didn't recognize it, so she couldn't go out with her daughter and carry her anywhere because that would be carrying, because they didn't recognize the Eruv. So there's a lot of, I don't know, ego and control in some of these sects or these rabbis. Some of them are reasonable, and some of them, just like any other religion, where the different preachers say you can't do this and you can't dance in my church. You can't do this and, whatever. So whatever. So I think I don't want to start sexual pleasure till, if this is the end, I want to take a look, because this is the last of the, and if anybody would like a copy of this, oh, you got it. I included it, you can download this if you want to keep it as a reference or show your partner, what the Jewish view of love is, and how a husband is supposed to treat his wife and give her jewels because she's the Shekhinah in the world. She's the divine presence.
That's
And
really perfect for Valentine's Day.
that's right. It's Valentine's Day. We're all representatives of the divine presence. So happy Valentine's Day, everyone. And may your
Thank
day
you.
go with love.
Good to see you, Bonnie.
Good to
Take
see
care.
Oh,
Good to
yeah,
be-
Bonnie. We're so
good
happy
to
to
be-
have you.
I'm so happy to be here. You have no idea. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Someday I want to know why this happened to me, and I lived.
Well,
Gotta be.
maybe you'll figure it out as life goes on.
I'm
But you're
open.
blessed. You're blessed.
Beyond.
Truly beyond.
Mwah.
Okay, bye everyone. I'll see
Thank
you
you
in
so
February.
much.
Have a good
Thank
week.
You too.
you.
Thank you.